Can you be successful building a house in the wintertime if you're in a northern climate and you get winter and it's cold? And the answer is yes. As long as you understand the expectations and you understand what's entailed, that's true for any project, whether you're building on the coast or whether you're building in the mountains or whether you're building in the winter or whether you're building in the summer. If you understand what you're in for, then you can certainly be successful doing so. So if you're planning to build your house in the wintertime, there's a few things that you should be thinking about, knowing, and considering. One of which is there's probably going to be a little extra cost. So in the wintertime, we need to sometimes heat the ground before we pour concrete. We need to keep the house warm and the structure warm once we get to a finish stage. And typically, everything takes a little bit longer. It's a little bit harder. So maybe it's fair for labor prices to go up just a little bit to accommodate shoveling snow and dealing with those things. Maybe it's worth it though to get it done in the winter. It fits your timeline and it's not that significant in the big scheme of things. Another point would be, I just alluded to, time. It takes a little longer to do things. The days are a little shorter. Often, like in framing stage, for instance, the guys come in and they may be shoveling snow every day before they could actually start framing. And shoveling snow is not framing, so if you're aware of that, then that can be managed. With that, often we're dealing with snow in a northern climate. It's very important if you're going to build in the winter to keep your site managed well throughout the course of the project. Meaning that if you get piles of snow and then it's freezing and you haven't managed it, and then that's an area that you're going to want to have no snow in later for some reason, it makes it much more difficult to do. So you got to make sure that you're thinking a few steps ahead and managing the snow in a way that doesn't lock you up later. With that, managing garbage. A lot of times you'll see on some more poorly ran sites where garbage gets buried in and under the snow, and then in the spring, it's a tragic mess. And you definitely want to be on top of that, making sure that you're allotting the time to deal with those things and not have a mess that you don't have to deal with if you plan for it, if you know about it, and if you expect it. Another point would be, I guess a couple of pros would be, those all kind of sound negative, but again, if you have clear expectations, they're not negative, they're just roadblocks or constraints that you have to deal with. Pros would be that things typically slow down a little bit in the wintertime, so crews have a little more time to do things. So when it comes to your finish, you might not have a crew trying to run through and hurry up and get to the next one because there's 6 more houses ahead of them. They might have a little more time and enjoy being in the warm house and do a better job on the trim phases and the sheetrock phase and all the interior finish. Not that they would do a bad job other times, but they're just not under as much pressure. Another great pro is bugs. There's no bugs in the wintertime. You build in the summertime, and that's something that you got to be aware of. When you're closing the house up, you got to make sure that you're not closing in all the spiders and bugs from outside. So that's another pro to building in the winter. But big moral of the story here is that yes, it can be done. Yes, it's going to produce just as good of an outcome, as long as you know to cast clear and appropriate expectations to mitigate the roadblocks or the constraints that winter would cause. Otherwise, go for it and build your house, because in northern climates, like really northern climates, they're building in snow all the time. They don't have a choice. So maybe even research some of the tricks of the trade that they've learned before you do, so you know what to think of and be wary of. So anyway, that's what I got for you. Don't be afraid to break ground going into winter. It is not going to turn out to be a disaster. Just set your expectations clear and you will have a successful build. I'm Robert with Heirloom Custom Homes. Thanks for watching.